Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Alia Farhanam Jamaluddin from class KIM 104D, and today I would like to talk about my article review that is record keeping and disaster management in public sector institution in Ghana. First and foremost, for the introduction, organization, in other words, all of them is the same. They all produce record. What people in companies achieve mostly less on the data they obtain, but also how they manage them, organize, use and record. The possibility of the catastrophe is one of the main concerns to the safety and maintenance in public document and information. There are many kind of catastrophe, and one is disaster knowledge. Any incident that destroys the resource of information is an information catastrophe. Most organizations, particularly record and archive, refer to disaster as disaster record by information resources, that is record. Disaster management comprises the planning, preparation, and efficient handling of unwanted occurrence. Disaster management does not depend on the individual organization, but it's cooperate and coordinate specialized professional and including agency, social service, administration, logistics and healthcare. Thus, it needs to be truly researched and adequately planned. And all of workers need to be kept informed of the various threats to the good under their care and what is expected of them in the catastrophe situation. Well, next, the objectives of this article is to firstly to identify possible or genuine threat and danger for public sector entities within the information ecosystem. Next, to identify public sector institution resources and infrastructure for information disaster management. To evaluate as to if organization in the public sector have planned for their record for disaster management. And it also to determining the level of sensitivity and skill in disaster management and risk management for public sector entities. Last but not least is to investigate PRAAD and NADMO involvement in public sector information disaster management. As other researchers have shown, geographical location, the type of building and its structure, and the political context affect the organization. Data obtained from the Department of Town and Country Planning show that part of Accra, which has the ministry seismic area. However, the respondent did not consider it as a threat. This is, however, the hazard in PRAAD codes. Although interviewees reported that their electronic gadget was served on a regular basis, however, the researcher did not agree. They think otherwise because most of the equipment was broken and looked quite old, especially in the record office, which had to be maintained or replaced. Land Commission headquarters Accra, among others, were causing major damage to the organization concerned, as the majority of the critical record for their work were destroyed due to the defective air conditioner and electrical facility, which were the origin of the fire. Fire was the most probable record calamity. Many information centers saw fire as the disaster that most likely to destroy their document. Auto-revolution, internal strife, and earthquake were not seen as danger to information center. They were not to be seen as a guarantee of organization sitting back and without developing a disaster plan to secure their data. In addition to fire, there were also excessive leak and unwanted leaches. In certain places of Ghana, flood have been on increase, particularly in Accra, ACCR. The Western, Ashanti, and Eastern areas, if such a situation develops, organizations may lose their essential information and equipment. The most typical calamities for IT department in most electronic contexts were equipment or system failure and lost crucial document. Accountability of organization staff does not mean that disaster will not take place. Most labor groups know that essential documents were necessary for the management, even though the department have identified their key document. They are all maintained, implying they can lose much of the essential information they need to restore and maintain business in the case of a crisis. The last proportion of ministry have mentioned that on-site storage is being utilized to preserve their record from tragedies, so that in the event of a disaster, off-site storage is ideal. Study finding verified researchers view that the minister did not undertake a risk assessment, as is seen from the fact that most ministries needed to refurbish their facilities and record offices. This meant that the ministry were low in terms of preparedness of calamities. The issue involving individual for locality into pre-disaster and post-disaster recovery program is a major issue in disaster response. In calamity response, especially in Ghana, is absent in the part of social capital, creating the interaction of government and community for sustainable growth. In conclusion, information catastrophe can aggravate an impact on the production and effectiveness of an organization. It is therefore crucial to plan for them in advance in order to secure essential documents of organizations against disaster or tragedies, and thus reduce any impact. Periodic risk studies within firms will contribute to mitigating the effect of threat and risk before they become disasters. In conjunction with PRAAD, head of public institutions should adopt internal rules to maintain and strengthen their essential record-keeping system effectively. Control and readiness plan should be included in their strategic management program by the leader of public institution. That is all. Thank you for listening to my article review.